And so going back to our myth of the naked man, the lion slayer, the lions were chasing the cattle. And so when the naked man appears in the sky, he protects the cattle from the lions. That there's something that is starting for you in your life that is unexpected. It may still take some time for it to arise, but it's something in terms of this transformation. The emancipation from something that bound you under the Leo new moon Ashlesha, the embrace, the snake's embrace eclipse, and the emancipation with the incoming of the great man into the night sky, pushing away the lions, and the preparation for a big turnaround and solutions that may be unconventional and surprising. On August 27th at 9 p.m., there will be a full moon and an eclipse in the sign of Pisces at 4 degrees. A full moon is the natural opposition between the sun and moon, and because of this, when the sun is setting in the western horizon, the moon will begin to rise in the east, specifically for the Pacific time zone, which is Western Canada and Western United States. This means that when the eclipse happens, if you live on the West Coast in the Pacific time zone, you will see the full moon eclipse rise at its maximum coverage. So you will see a bloody full moon rise on the eastern horizon. Even if you are 1 or 2 time zones east of that, you will still see the moon turn bloody after it rises, depending on how far south and north you are. Unfortunately, where I live, it's predicted to be rainy, so I'm concerned that I'll miss the spectacle, but I really recommend that you go out to see it if you get the chance. This is one of the full moon summer moons eclipses, which are fairly rare. They only happen a couple times in a decade. I'm going to present to you a story here today about what this eclipse represents. We are going to go across cultures and across different astrological systems to understand this position because it's quite nuanced. Overall, what this full moon eclipse represents is a removal of restrictions with new solutions being offered. This is not a standalone eclipse. It has a twin, but an unexpected twin that I'm excited to tell you guys about. The myths we are going to talk about today are 6,000 years old or older. Some of it is speculative, and I will tell you when it is speculative. But the common thread, narrative thread, runs through the story, which is the removal of chaos, the removal of threat, the resolution of restrictions that hold you back, and the end of disorder. The Pisces eclipse here is unbound. It is vast, it is full of possibility, and it has a very specific spiritual flair. So in order to understand this spiritual flair, we want to go back to our visualization of what happens under a full moon. A full moon, by definition, is the opposition of the sun and moon, during which time, when the sun sets, the moon rises in the opposite horizon. So here is the sun setting, and here is the moon rising. In the zodiac chart, the upper part represents, in this case, the night sky, and below we have below the horizon. So this is the sky, and this is below the horizon, below the chart. So we can see the sun setting and the moon about to rise. This is very important to understand for this full moon. If you're paying attention, you may have noticed something different about this chart. Suddenly, the full moon in Pisces is a full moon in Aquarius, and the sun is not in Virgo, but is in Leo. I'm only using this sidereal chart to show you something pretty special, and then we'll go back to the tropical system. So we're not switching to sidereal in this reading. So in ancient times, the constellations and the zodiac signs were based off of stories of the constellations and the stars. And since that time, Western astrology adopted the tropical system, which is a system that is focused on seasons as opposed to the stars themselves. But in the sidereal system, like you see in this chart, there's still some representation of the stars and constellations behind each sign. And that's why I wanted to show it to you today. This is because this Pisces full moon in the tropical system is actually connected to the myth of the great man. The great man is the early archetype of the zodiac sign of Aquarius. He goes by many names, but these stories go back to prehistory, so before we had writing. So the ancient story I want to tell you about is a great hunt. The great man had some cattle. He had some cattle represented by the Taurus zodiac sign or constellation. And when the great man disappeared from the night sky, a herd of lions, represented by Leo, began to hunt the cattle. And under this full moon, what we see is the rise of the great man again. He comes back because under a full moon, the stars and the constellations behind where the full moon is begin to rise in the night sky. So after a full moon, from that moment on, the constellations and the stars where the full moon was at, in this case Pisces in the Western zodiac, or Aquarius in the sidereal system, begin to rise in the night sky. And so the story goes that once the great man rose up into the night sky, the herd of lions disappeared because they go below the horizon with the sun. And so after this point, after this eclipse, we see the rise of the great man, sometimes called the naked man in early stories. And the lions, or the Leo constellation, begins to disappear below the horizon along with the sun and will not be seen for months ahead in the night sky. Because of this, the great man is also called the lion slayer. And all those stories about Aquarius being a helper, a protector of man, originate in this primordial story. So now let's return to the regular tropical system. So you see the full moon in Pisces, and let's consider the Pisces symbolism. So Pisces symbolism, specifically for 4 degrees of Pisces and thereabout, has a lot to do with vastness, psychic openness, uncertainty, and chaos. Now, in order to illustrate this, let's look at Vedic astrology, because 4 degrees of Pisces coincides with the Shatabisha Nakshatra, which is also defined as an empty circle. I love the image of the empty circle because it reminds me of entropy. Entropy is when everything in the universe stops and becomes nothing. Almost like in the never-ending story when everything gets swallowed by the nothing. It's this otherworldly, liminal space, a dead end with ultimate possibilities because there's nothing there. So everything begins in that space. This is a very spiritual nakshatra. And the reason I'm bringing up the Vedic system is that when we're considering stories and myths and symbolism, surprisingly, there is a lot of overlap between Vedic traditions and Western traditions that have some kind of ancient origin that is lost to history. So when we look at the Vedic system, we hear echoes and answers to certain things that we in the West don't have answers for in our symbolism, and yet there's overlap. So Shatabisha Nakshatra allows us to really connect with this area of Pisces through its vastness and possibilities. Back in ancient Western systems, Marduk, who was a young god in the Babylonian system, killed the monster Tiamat, who was a serpent of chaos, a snake or a dragon. A deeper level to this story is that Tiamat was one of the old gods and Marduk was a young god. Because Marduk slayed Tiamat, he instilled order where there was chaos. which was the primary message of that story, he also became the king of the gods. This ancient story is then reflected in later stories such as Zeus overtaking Uranus to become the king of the gods in the Greek pantheon. So Pisces eclipse is all about taming the snake, okay? Taming chaos. And I'm not here to smear snakes, okay? Snakes are animals, they're beautiful. We're talking symbolically. So let's take this symbolism of the snake to August 12th. So on August 12th, 2026, we had a new moon eclipse at 20 degrees of Leo. This coincides with another nakshatra called Ashlesha. Ashlesha nakshatra is also called the embrace and is represented by the snake. The eclipse in this position symbolizes binding, excessive intensity, and destructive attachment. Because that eclipse was alongside the south node, what's actually happening is that all these things, the hold of the snake is breaking and you're being set free. One of the ways Ashlesha is explained is that the more that you persist in something that is resisting, the harder it's going to resist, the harder that embrace to stop you will be. That's the property of the nakshatra itself. So the new moon eclipse broke that spell, fractured it, and set you free. So we have two snakes. We have one on August 12th, which is the break of the embrace, the things that bind you and the things that hold you back. And then August 27th, which is the slain serpent, Tiamat, and the rise of the great man or the naked man or the lion slayer into the night sky. This suggests that alongside this eclipse, something new is coming into your life, that there's some heroic figure rising up into the night sky. A heroic figure is coming into your situation. There's some kind of divine intervention. Peace is coming into the situation after a period of attack. The lions are now below the horizon during the night. They're no longer a threat. And so this story continues. It doesn't end there. It just keeps going over and over again. What's significant about this is this time it's an eclipse, which marks a stronger energy of this transition. So in Vedic astrology, these nakshatras are actually linked. Typically in astrology, we pair the axis pairs. So Aquarius goes with Leo and Virgo goes with Pisces. However, when we consider the Vedic system, the Shatabisha nakshatra is linked with Ashlesha because they are 8 nakshatras apart, which makes them complementary. And because of this, the Leo or Ashlesha nakshatra connects, the Leo, I messed myself up. The Leo eclipse links with the full moon eclipse in Pisces. So the Ashlesha nakshatra, where the August 12th eclipse was, links with the full moon eclipse in Pisces, the Shatabisha nakshatra, where the eclipse is going to be. And these eclipses actually travel together through time. In 2007, we had a new moon, not an eclipse, in Leo at 20 degrees. And then we had a 4-degree full moon eclipse in Pisces. In 2020, we had a Leo full moon, not an eclipse, at 20 degrees of Leo, and a new moon at 4 degrees of Pisces, not an eclipse. Then this year we have a new moon eclipse at 20 degrees in Leo and a full moon eclipse at 4 degrees of Pisces, which is an eclipse. And then the next time we have this is a full moon in Leo in 2039 at 20 degrees. And then we'll have the Pisces new moon, not an eclipse, at 4 degrees. So these eclipses repeat together. So these are in August, these are in February, these are in August, and these are in February again. And you can see they're switching from full moon to new moon in each iteration. So the idea that this is the marker of a major ending, it's demonstrably not so. In terms of the symbolism, the most ancient symbolism that's 6,000 years old, we are talking about a divine intervention. And in terms of the symbolism of the Vedic system, we have embracing the empty circle, the void, the space of pure potential, one of the most sacred nakshatras in the Vedic system. And then in terms of the astronomy or the repetition of these events, we see that they happen on a fairly regular iteration, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. It is neat that both are an eclipse this time, but these lunations, sun, moon, new moon, full moon combinations happen on a fairly regular basis in these exact degrees. Now, this eclipse is also interesting because Uranus, right here at 6 degrees, 5 degrees of Gemini, is squaring this eclipse. If you recall to June or July 2026, the nodes were actually in this position, creating a square to Uranus. So here's the chart, and here are the nodes, and here is the Uranus-Mars conjunction that set off a 2-year planetary cycle between the planets from roughly the same degree positions. What's interesting about this position is that it correlates with the position of the Taurus constellation in the sidereal zodiac. I will not show you this in this chart, but this specific position is actually Taurus sidereal. And so going back to our myth of the naked man, the lion slayer, the lions were chasing the cattle. And so when the naked man appears in the sky, he protects the cattle from the lions. So that symbolism tells us something about Uranus here, that there's something that is starting for you in your life that is unexpected. It may still take some time for it to arise, but it's something in terms of this transformation, the emancipation from something that bound you under the Leo new moon Ashlesha, the embrace, the snake's embrace eclipse, and the emancipation with the incoming of the great man into the night sky, pushing away the lions, and the preparation for a big turnaround and solutions that may be unconventional and surprising, represented by the new cycle of the bulls. We'll talk about this combination of transits later because there's a lot to say about this as well. But my main point of this video was that this isn't an ending. In fact, this is a major turnaround of new potentials in your life. Okay, so let's take a look at the tarot to see what kind of message we can get for you for the Pisces eclipse. So first card is the Seven of Cups. That's Venus in Pisces, in Scorpio, excuse me. I think that there's this illusion that people need to break through in general, in which the vision that they have of themselves, is not actually who they are. And I think who they are is better than what they give themselves credit for. There's a lot of talk about the last 15 years, the last 26 years of transits in Pisces, but we've been going through pretty significant transit in Aries, which is the Chiron transit, that really made people doubt themselves. And so now that Chiron is transitioning into Taurus, people are revisiting themselves again and hopefully finding a deeper self-assurance or self-confidence. So to me, the Seven of Cups represents that there's a distorted image here. The image is distorted because of lived experiences that have negatively pushed down on somebody's experience. And so the core of the energy, and this is really tied into that Ashlesha Nakshatra eclipse, the one on August 12th, about being more valuable than you give yourself credit for and seeing your value in a much more, or feeling that value even. It's almost like having been denied your value or convinced that your value is less than, and rising beyond that. The next message is the Ace of Swords. And so there's some kind of message, there's some kind of invitation. Look, there's a bison here as well. I think it's a bison. But that brings us back to the story of the naked man and his bison slaying the lions. The image that creates in my mind is really great. And then we have the Three of Wands. Something is opening up your vision. There's possibilities that you never thought were accessible to you before. The next message is the Ten of Swords. That's Sun in Gemini. I think that there's a fear that if you pursue a certain type of direction, that things are going to fail. And I think that even though you see the first couple steps in a journey, it really breaks down when you think of like a goal or some kind of outcome. Let's see the next message. We have the Magician, a new offer, initiation of something. There's big doubt on the horizon for you. You really doubt whether or not that you can make something happen in your life. There's like, I really want to do this, but there's a big but in there. And then we have the Nine of Cups in the center. Your wish is being granted. Some kind of a door or opportunity is opening itself up to you. We have the Eight of Pentacles. Despite the fact that you are going to feel quite a bit of doubt or questioning whether or not you can do it, I think you're going to work really hard towards this opportunity and in this direction. We are in Virgo season. And then we have the Knight of Swords, Gemini, Aquarius, or Libra, relying on your intellect and your reason, very quick thinking decisions that you're making. And then we have the the Page of Cups. So we have the Page of Swords and the Page of Cups, not the Knight of Swords. Your idea is going to change as you pursue it. So the thing that you're wanting to take on that feels like too much right now, it's not going to be what you think when you get there. So what you're actually afraid of is not what's going to be there when you get to the destination you're thinking of. It's going to change in a couple different ways, and it's going to be much more natural. So allow yourself the space and the ability to adapt to your future. That's a very Piscean energy, this kind of open-endedness for the potential of where things are going. There'll be new emotional resonances, new ideas for you to interact with. It's going to look very different than what it looks now. The next message is we have the Five of Pentacles. I think that you're going to be joining together with other people, specifically 2 other people, to achieve your goal. I think that the 3 of you are tackling a problem together, and I think that's the way through the thing that you're concerned about. Everybody's situation is different, but it does feel like there's an obstacle that you anticipate to be in your way. And in order to meet especially the physical material demands of that obstacle, you're working together with others, specifically 2 other people, to share in the burden of the task that you want to take on. So break up the work together or pool your money towards a common goal. On the bottom is the Seven of Pentacles. This is all slow moving, actually. It's very slow moving based on investing in your future, believing that this path, it's like a big question of trusting your future here. It's a big question of whether there's a big ambition attached to something, but there's a lot of doubt. There's a lot of concern about whether or not you can make it. But I always kind of point to the idea how that's a game in our head, because you can reduce everything into doubt. You can reduce everything into questions about whether something or not will work. You can walk down the street and think about every single car hitting you and wonder if the next car will hit you, because there's a statistical chance that could happen. but everybody can see that's an unreasonable thing to think of. You can walk down the street and wonder whether or not every single bird that flies over your head will poop on you. Statistically, that is possible, but realistically, it's not something you worry about. So it is possible that the thing that you are pursuing will not work. However, it is going to work, and it's unlikely that something that you're worried about will happen. In fact, the direction you're going on or the direction you're going into is going to change. When you get there, it is going to be different than what you envisioned. It will be something else. But still, it's a good idea to save your money, save your resources, and pool your resources together with others and pursue this in a careful way, strategic way. Let's see the next message. We have the insight. So you're getting very powerful insights right now about which direction you're going. And then your logical mind steps in and makes you question the visions you're having. And I think that it's an incorrect path to get rid of your cautious mind, but it's also incorrect to get rid of your intuition. It needs to be a blend of both desire and strategic reasoning or critical thinking. So something requires, you have the skill to do something already. You have a skill set or something, you already know how to do something well. So this isn't completely a new path. This is going in a direction that you already sort of know. There's some kind of breakthrough. Right, so this to me is Chiron in Aries coded, which to me suggests that you've come up against this problem again and again, but it's your time to create a breakthrough. Look at this. He's breaking the thing that stands in his way. So this is something that you really need to tackle. This is a problem that you faced all along. The next card is Order. Something that was stacked up against you because of unfair order is being organized in such a way so that you have fair access to it. So the situation in which you are in is going to be an even playing field as opposed to what it was before, which was favoritism, nepotism, all those kinds of isms. And then we have strain. Okay. Do a lot of affirmations and self-care right now. You have considerable strain from your lived experiences pushing down on you. This doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. It's just life has taken you in such a direction that you feel the weight, like someone criticizing you or someone cutting you down, someone standing in your way, gatekeeping, all sorts of different behaviors to try to stop you or be negative towards you, especially in these coercive ways. You have internalized too many of those, and now you're constantly struggling because of them. So do some self-care and treat yourself well. Don't fold to the manipulations of nasty naysayers. They have such clever ways of speaking against you or trying to create environments in which there's this impression. They try to create a false impression in very manipulative ways. So don't be a sucker. Don't be naive to their gaslighting, their behaviors. And do a lot of nurture, turning inward, the South Node in Leo, to find your answer there. Once you find your answer there, we are reinvigorating groups. So the first thing that we need to do is take care of the self, which is South Node in Leo. And we had that eclipse in Leo just 2 weeks ago. And then when you're adjusted and aligned well, then you will be seeking like-minded individuals. And so that's why it's so important to take care of yourself right now, to feel good, to feel empowered, to feel strong. There's a time and a place for everything. There's a time to be cautious. There's a time to be critical, but there's also a time to express towards yourself self-care and consideration. Prudence, which is going slow. Okay, this situation requires that you go slow and carefully, to find composure. That's the perfect card. I'm going to just pull that out and leave it with the rest of the cards. This situation requires that you go slow and methodically. You're not going to succeed by trying to outrun the pack or whoever you're running up against if you are competing. You're not going to get somewhere faster. You're not going to outsmart someone. The real champion comes from confronting the doubt within your own mind, or the doubt that you've been suckered into believing for the benefit of someone else. People will say this and that in order to destabilize you. Some people are competing with you. Some people are just mean-spirited like that, and they'll just destroy things. People's psychology are really complex. Some people have, like, they're constantly reliving stressful times in their lives. So when you see certain types of behaviors, especially erratic, irrational, or aggressive behaviors, that's often them repeating a very dangerous narrative in their mind. And I feel like you're meant to be more cautious with accepting it. I think that you're too kind with sympathizing with people who are not ready to be kind towards you, and you deserve someone who will be kind in turn. In other words, you take on other people's problems too much. And I think that the thing that's stopping your success is when you allow them to convince you. In other words, I think you're working through the spirit of being naive too much. And I'm not calling anybody else out. But how do we get around this 10 of Swords? You have to have your breakthrough. You have to give up listening to what they're saying to you, whoever they are, and carefully. This is Seven of Pentacles is prudence as well. So we have prudence, careful, methodical beginnings, maybe with a couple companions at the start. And your composure is way more valuable than any other measure in a situation. Let's take a look at my oracle cards for a deeper meaning. So the first card on the bottom is a rich man. Somebody gave you inspiration who has a lot of privilege. For them, the goal is so easy, but for you, maybe with less privilege, the hurdle is bigger. Wore a mask to hide, a social mask to hide motive. You're in an environment where people have ulterior reasons to be there. So this is like social media right now, where people are, showing up and present online for a lot of different reasons. We've all been online for quite a long time, and because of this, more people have gamified being online. The whole process of being online, they have learned how to manipulate it or use it to their advantage. So things like sincere disclosures that were popular online before, where people would share from their lives and their experiences, genuine stories. For many years now, people have learned how to be sincere and tell stories that evoke emotional compassion from their audience. And so they lead with stories like this, knowing that it will get a reaction. So it becomes insincere. So it goes deeper than that, because people are here for a variety of motives. And whatever space you're in, people are very hyper aware right now of themselves, of how they are seen by others. This creates an environment of low trust, because you never quite know who's lying about their motives and about who they really are or what their goals are. This means that some of the things that have been said to you and you've interacted with were actually motivated by ulterior motives than you were ever introduced to. Here is the next message. A major breakthrough is near. See, breakthrough. Wow, look at this. A major breakthrough is near. A breakthrough. So something you were able to get through before, you're able to break through now or figure out a way. People with real power are reorganizing the whole situation. Now we have like this synchronistic moment. And there's the magician there. If you watched my recent video, which one was it? It was the moon and the north node. It's like a couple videos back. I was talking about like the gray people, the people that make the real decisions. This is the level that we're talking about. A whole system is changing because the system is being made fair. Let's see the next message. We have, this is the right direction, even though it may be something that's strenuous. So an idea was introduced to you that seemed kind of easy and fun because the person who introduced the direction has relatively a lot of privilege. So for them, each pursuit is effort, but they don't have the obstacles that maybe other people do. And for you, you're going to come up against real world things that are hard to get there. Lack of resources, maybe, things like that, money, investments. But it's saying it's the right direction despite the fact that it might be a bit of work. And the next card is new life commitment. Out of this, something new comes out. Out of this, a whole new commitment, a whole new path will emerge, but you have to go down that path to get there. Love grows where desire was forgotten, so go slow. You can't. The other thing that I'm getting about this is that you can't really outthink this situation. Like it just has to unfold on its own with careful movement forward. You have to believe in yourself. You have to trust that the direction you're going on is the right one. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll catch you next time. We are going to do all signs very soon. I'm just getting everything set up and everything ready. So I'll catch you next time. Have a nice day. See you soon. Bye.